Hi there. Welcome to the final episode of the Bonsai Stuff podcast for 2023. Episode 47. Made it, folks. Thank you for everybody that's given me strong encouragement and kind words over the journey of this year. And it's a wrap. We made it. It's awesome. I'm feeling really chuffed about it, and I want to specifically get this one out on New Year's Eve before the festivities start. I'm not sure how many people will be listening to me, but there might be a few people out there listening to this prior to the coming of the new year. And I just want to wish everyone all the best for the holiday season. Hopefully it's a lovely time for you, and you are thoroughly enjoying yourself, and your trees are doing really well. The weather hopefully has been kind to us. Hopefully there's a dawning on the horizon for your holidays, and end of year I think is a really nice way to do a wrap up and have a look at what's happened this year, what you've achieved, and I'm going to dig into this podcast with a bit of a review of an overview of some of the highlights for me of the podcast throughout the year. And just to put a bow on it for us all to say, we're done. This is it. Coming back bigger and stronger next year. There's lots planned for next year. So don't worry. It's not a farewell. This is just a yearly wrap. So let's get into it. All right, I want to start the podcast with just a little bit of a shout out to a couple of my bonsai heroes in the Australian bonsai scene. They do a hell of a lot of work for the betterment of bonsai in Australia, and this is just a little bit of my recognition of these guys. So it's Lee and Sam up in Canberra at National Bonsai and Pension Collection of Australia. They do a hell of a lot of work, as well as all the dedicated team that they have come in to help them take care of the trees that are put on display for a hell of a lot of people that come from all over the globe, as well as throughout Australia, to make a pilgrimage up there. So, fellas, thank you very much for all that you do. It's greatly appreciated, and I mean that from the bottom of my heart. All right, so the yearly recap. Let's have a look. I want to go back to exactly where the year started and talk about that. And the very first episode this year, which I think is probably one of the most important podcasts that I've done, was talking about goal setting and making sure that you set out a path for not necessarily just your bonsai, but for you and how you're going to take care of them and develop them. And that links into your satisfaction and your enjoyment of what we do, these little trees in pots. So by having a goal setting, having a plan for the trees, will make a massive difference. And if you look at how quickly this year's gone, it's seriously the blink of an eye. I remember as a kid, I'd be, you'd be mucking around, and your parents or, the older people would sort of say, oh, yeah, the years fly past, and you go, that's rubbish. They do not. Like, it just drags on and on and on, and, a week can seem like eternity when you're a little kid. But now as you get, as you sort of hit the maturity level of getting older, and you have a life of your own, and things start to tick on, a year goes past in a blink. I look back now and think, it feels like I was just doing that first podcast last week, but it's not. Part of my planning for this podcast was to review and have a look at what I've done. And when I scrolled through the notes that I'd made, pages and pages and pages of notes, it's like, geez, a lot's been done in a really short period of time, but it just feels like yesterday that I started it. So I like to use this downtime, hopefully it's downtime for you with your trees and your family and your friends and nearest and dearest. But I like to actually go out there and do a bit of a review of my trees and have a look and say, where was this tree when I first started the year? Have I achieved what I wanted to achieve with it? And, am I on target for my plan? If I'd said to myself I wanted to develop the apex more, or I wanted to grow a sacrifice branch to really thicken up that first branch on the tree, have I done it? Have I achieved what I set out to do? And it's time to reflect and give yourself a little bit of a pat on the back, because these things take a lot of patience and a lot of care. A lot of watering time goes in there, a lot of fertilizing, a lot of just spending time looking at your trees. Like, your bonsai has to do the hard work, but buddy, give yourself a pat on the back, because your tree takes steps forward based on your care. And It's hard to it's easy to let time slip by. It's hard to get recognition for what you do, but when you get that little cheeky grin when you look at something and go, you know what, it is getting there. And go back, look at your photos. You might not think that things have changed a lot in a 12-month period. Go back to an earlier photo that you took when you set the plan in place and have a review of it. Look at it. Hold the photo on your phone right there, smack next to the tree, and just say, what has changed on this tree? You might feel like it's sort of got nowhere, but, the 1 to 2, the division, the ramification, the development of your trees, it happens, unless something goes wrong, it doubles every year. So your trees should be in a better position now based on setting that goal, that path for yourself. And I think you've got to really enjoy the progress. I say it till I'm blue in the face to everybody. The bonsai that I love is not about the end result. It's about the journey. It's about what we do between first starting down a path and getting there in the end. If you ever do, like it just goes on and on and on forever. And I love it. I had some friends over the other night for a bit of a Christmas catch up, and they're like, all right, which one's your favourite? They're non-bonsai people. They're looking at, all right, show us in your yard which one do you love the most? And I went, I can't tell you. And they're like, no, seriously, just pick, which one is it? Is it that one? Is it that one? I said, here's how I look at it, right? I've got so many trees in my collection. You tell me which one you love the most. And of half a dozen fellas standing there having a beer looking at the trees, they all pick different trees. And I said, see how you can't have a favourite, because it's what's important for me is to make sure that everyone that looks at them and you get something out. I get something out of every single one of my trees in my yard, and they don't need to be masterpieces, but I've got to enjoy what I'm doing with them. If I don't enjoy what I'm doing with them, then I'm not sure what the purpose of actually having bonsai in the first place is. So, recap. Look at your goals, look what you've achieved, and be proud. Give yourself a pat on the back and enjoy it. Enjoy the progress that you've made. Another big one that seemed to pop up a little bit when I was looking through the review, and also going through messages that I've received and conversations that I've had face to face. A lot of it was about watering. Watering continues to be one of those things that as people who grow trees in pots, it's something that it's really hard to get your head around. And, I just want to finish the year by saying it's okay. It's okay. Things do go wrong, and it's very hard. I say this so many times that I struggle with it. You struggle with it. You think you've got it all down pat and got it all under control. Some little thing changes and you lose it. You're back to step one. It's like, oh, how the hell did that happen? How did I overwater that tree but I underwatered that one? Why is this happening? Why is that happening? Why have the leaves changed colour? The needles now look like they're a funny colour on the tree. It's, am I doing too much? Am I doing too little? Last week, I felt like I wasn't watering enough. This week I feel like I'm watering too much. And it's like, it's okay. It's all right. Don't be too hard on yourself. Definitely don't be too hard on the trees, because it's things change, and that's the beauty of bonsai. It's never static. It's never one size fits all. It changes. Two trees sitting beside each other. Different growth rates, different uptake of water. You have to water them differently. That's why, a lot of talk's also been about my watering system and what I use, and I'm an open book. I say it again. I'm not sponsored by anybody. All I can do is I don't make recommendations on watering system, because it's entirely up to you guys, and I don't want any liability on me. I am completely transparent about what I use and the system that I use. And if you go back and have a look through the earlier episodes of the podcast, I lay it out black and white what I use. Hasn't let me down. Touch wood, it's been fantastic. For so many years, it's been absolutely an awesome system, very reliable. But, as I've said, the system for me never stops being upgraded and improved. Like the couple of things that I've got this year was the internet rebooter, the switch that if my system dies effectively, or the internet jams at my house, then effectively the system's defunct. Like it doesn't work. So that was a major loophole, that I can't control things if the internet jams at home, and if I'm other side of the world, or out for dinner somewhere, or whatever I'm doing, then I lose control. So therefore, spending a couple of bucks on a little switch that says, "Hey, internet's not working. How about I restart for you?" I can't tell you how much, how many sleepless nights I've had worrying about this internet jamming up at home, and the unreliability of the service providers in Australia in general seems to be pretty common in a lot of places. So, to have this now and just be able to sleep easy, I got up the other morning, checked my phone at 1:10 in the morning. It said your system's jammed. I've done a reboot. Hey, 2 minutes later, I've checked it all. It's working okay. Go for it. I get up, have a look at my phone, and go, "Yeah, it is working. Everything's perfect. Like, my system hasn't missed a beat." So, I love to be able to pass on as much of my learnings through the school of, hard knocks when it comes to doing the wrong thing with bonsai, to hopefully shortcut and prevent, your journey to not have to do the same thing as what I do. And the last time I'm going to say it, hopefully the last time I'm going to say it, but the best advice I can give you is you often get what you pay for when it comes to these controllers for your watering system and the solenoid system, and reliability is key, and paying a few bucks extra at the start will be forgotten compared to having to rebuy everything, as well as, put a lot of your trees into the recycle bin when the system fails, which is the ultimate. It's definitely not what we want to have happen with our trees. So just make sure that you sort of stay on top of it. Right. So, as you should know, I love going surfing and I love bonsai. They're the two passionate things in my life that I really enjoy, and I feel that I get a lot of similar reward from both. And I was out surfing this the other day, and it was lovely, beautiful morning, really crisp. There was just really nice swell rolling through, and everything was just perfect. Like, to get out the back, sit there, wait for the swell to come in, catch it, have a really nice ride, and paddle out with a bloody grin from ear to ear that I couldn't stop. And anyway, I know this podcast isn't about surfing, but I was sitting out there and I was watching. There was a beginner, someone who's learning to surf, and they would come into the water and they would just catch everything, just try and catch every single wave that came through, and they would get smashed on waves, or they'd get up on the finally get up on the board, and they'd be out of runway basically, and they'd be on white water, and it was just and I found myself really happy for this person that was doing this surfing, and I was really thinking back to me at that point in my surfing life when you'd catch anything, you try and catch anything. Like, you would just go from anything. Didn't matter if you potentially snapped your board or if it was a rubbish ride that lasted half a second, or just anything. Like, you would just go for it. Whereas now, I sit back and I enjoy, and I wait, and then you pick and choose, and you go, yep, this one's the right one, and you know why it's the right one, because it's got a nice face on it, or you can see it's going to peel one way, left or right, whatever it is. You set yourself up accordingly. The wave comes along, jump on it, catch it, really nice ride, and and I remember when I was early a kid surfing, you'd look and see people catch these waves, and you go, how the hell do they do that? Like, I'm catching all this rubbish. And these guys just sit out, and all of a sudden they just pick the best wave, and they ride for a really long ride, and they've got it. But I found that for me, there's a direct comparison to bonsai journey as well. And hear me out, there is definitely. So when you're a beginner, anything that you come across that says tree on it in a pot at a hardware store or a nursery that maybe is on a bargain table, that you look at it and go, yep, it's a kind of juniper, it's got a brown trunk, there's some green foliage, that's a bonsai, perfect. I'm going to take that and I'm going to wire that thing, and I'm going to make it the best bonsai in the world. And I can't believe it's only $5. How cheap's that? You get it home, you look at it, you wire it, you potentially, let's say it survives the process of you being manhandling with it. And then, somewhere down the track, I look back to trees that I started and the stock that I selected, and it's like, that should never have been a bonsai. The foliage on it is not suited to bonsai. The growth structure on it is not suited to a bonsai. Just because it's, some kind of a ground cover doesn't mean it's necessarily going to be a good bonsai. And so I found that, like the person learning to surf, just catching everything, when you're first starting your bonsai journey, you'll buy everything. Everything's a bonsai. Everything has potential. Everything's going to be the best in the world. And oh my God, look at this trunk. It's so cool. But then as you sort of progress along your path, along your journey, you start to pick and choose a little bit more. You know, like the person sitting out the back waiting for the right wave to come along, enjoying the therapy of being by yourself and as one in the water, feeling the energy of the world under your feet. It's like that with your bonsai. Well, it progresses to be that. So you'll go from acquiring and grabbing, snatching everything to walking through bonsai nurseries going, no, there wasn't anything there that I connected with. There wasn't anything that is the bonsai for me. And then when you do come across one, just like when the right wave comes along, you grab it, you snatch it and go, yeah, there is so much potential in there. You know, I can carve, I can bend, I can put into a lovely pot, or I can develop the structure, I can goal set for this thing, and I can make this the best bonsai in the entire world. And I think that part of the journey for me is the best, you know, like it's bonsai maturity. You talked about that in the podcast as well. And you develop over time, and it's okay. Like and it should be enjoyed. Like it's not that I don't think it's negative that when you're first starting that you acquire everything and you're a bull at a gate and you want to catch every wave and you want to make every tree into a bonsai. It's like that's part of the journey, and it's great. It's awesome. Enjoy it, and then as things mature and you suddenly slow down, you become more refined at what you do. You become more selective. Your bonsai journey takes a different turn, and you suddenly go, yeah, well, I really like this, and this is what I'm looking for in a tree, and this is where this bonsai is going to go to. And it's, you know, I think that link between surfing and bonsai for me is there so strongly in everything I do. And you know, I finish wiring a tree out, and you know, I sit back and I look at it and enjoy it. It's the same feeling I get when I finish surfing for a day, where I go, oh, that was just fantastic. That was so good. You know, like that's really, you know, maybe it's not at a finish point, but it's, you know, it's never done. It's just something that continues for me in perpetuity. Like I'm never going to say I'm finished with bonsai. There's never ever a time that I'm going to put my tools down and go, you know what, that's the last time that I'm ever going to do that. So I love it. It's like a never-ending puzzle for me, where I just keep putting pieces in there that fit right and go, yep, that's it, that's perfect, that's where I'm going to head with this. This is my bonsai journey now. So yeah, it's a nice link, I think, for me anyway, in my head, to say, you know, there's similarity between these two passions. So following on from that too, one of the things that was talked about in the podcast this year was the Dave Grohl of bonsai, and I think that that's really important, and it's worth sort of spinning back to, because in your collection, you know, there's always going to be potential. There's always going to be something which can be taken to the next level and be an amazing tree, and possibly gets overlooked. I see it with sales. You know, when there's sales on, people sort of get to the point where they go, I just got too many trees, I want to turn them over a little bit or whatever, and then someone comes in that looks at it with fresh eyes, and they see the potential in this tree. So this tree that was sort of passed over by someone suddenly changes into becoming a magnificent bonsai somewhere down the track. One in my collection I can clearly think of is a juniper. It's a nice, short, stunted little thing, very thick trunk, a lot of deadwood on it with a massive live vein. And I remember I picked this thing up. It was ripped out of a garden a long, long time ago. I'm just trying to think. It was probably 15 years plus, maybe closer to 20 years, I suppose. And it cost next to nothing at a sale day, absolutely nothing. As you know, around back then it was about $60, $50-$60 or something like that. So it was really, really cheap. And straight away I saw this thing. It had next to no foliage, a couple of little branches on it. But I thought, you know, with that trunk, I can't profess to say that I saw what it's become today. But I did profess to see. I can say hand on heart that I did see a lot of potential in this thing, and it would give me a lot of practice doing things like, you know, creating deadwood and trying to structure a live vein to develop on this tree. And so this thing turned from being a sad sort of stump, I suppose, with not much foliage on it, to, you know, I do clearly remember that I had a plan for this thing and a path, and I remember I think I'd killed a plum that I'd dug out of the ground a long time ago, and overworked it, didn't allow it to recover, then worked on it, killed it. And I remember acquiring this juniper sort of just after that had happened, so I'd hit the brakes a little bit. I knew that not everything I was doing with my bonsai was gold at that stage, and that I probably needed to just draw a breath a little bit more and sit back a little bit more and not be so impatient with things, which is one of my downsides, or it was. So this juniper went on this path with me on this journey. And now I look at it in my yard and I love it. It's just beautiful. The live vein's swollen. The deadwood's just nice and beautiful. The foliage is lush and green. It's just a real classic, beautiful little tree. But seeing those Dave Grohls in your collection, maybe it's not quite as easy to see them because you look at them so close. So you talked about perspective on things too, where you change the viewing angle of the tree and look at it from a different height, a different distance. Different perspective can be really, really important, and that's where your bonsai network, the group of bonsai buddies that you've got around you, can really be important for that too. Where you can look at things differently and flick it through and talk to each other on a chat. And hey, what do you reckon with this one? I'm not so sure. I can't really see anything, or I can only see this. Can you see something else in it? And I think that's where being open to that whole group of ideas and different views and perspectives on things is really positive and encouraging too. And I really push that, that bonsai network it's part of the journey as well. Who you love bonsai with and who you share your bonsai with is really important, and it's fundamental to your ongoing, driver for your bonsai passion. That was one of the big ones I talked about is, bonsai passion and the network in an earlier episode as well. So I think this year has been lots of talk about timing for work as well, which has been really positive. That's reminded me that I need to do such and such, or you're doing this at that time. That's great. Mine's a little bit different, but and hopefully if you're in the northern hemisphere, you switch them around, and you listen to them 6 months apart, and hopefully some of it relates to where you are. If not, it's hopefully driving your bonsai passion, which was a big highlight of some of the comments that I've received about the podcast, that it's sort of that weekly refresher to keep, your scissors sharp and your tools in the tool roll ready to go, so you can, jump into your trees and be pushed a little bit more than what you normally would. So it's been a good year. I've loved it. I really have. And it's been diverse when I look back through what's been talked about. A lot of work's gone into this podcast, so I'm really grateful that it's been well received, and yeah, this is us. We're done for the year. Well, Happy New Year, everyone. That's it. Podcast done for the year. Episode 47, 2023. Put a bow on it. You're finished. You are done. So thank you very much, as always. I had some lovely feedback. The podcast has been really well received in 80 countries. So thank you very much. It's actually a little humbling and a little daunting to know how far and wide this podcast has made it, and the amount of listens that have happened as well. So it's fantastic. I love it. Overall, I think the podcast now is like 130,000 odd listens. So thank you. It's a format that I really enjoy. I do get comments about doing a bit more in YouTube. 2024, maybe, we'll see. I've got a lot on the cards next year. It definitely is in the back of my mind to up the YouTube, but it's just the time that's needed to do it. I do want to keep the podcast rolling because it's got some great momentum on it now. And one of the podcasts that came from one of my bonsai people that comes around into the workshop, Bev, she's written something which is perfect. She said, comment was, it's like a chat with a mate, even though it's one-sided. And that's how I feel when I put it together. I feel like I'm talking to my bonsai mates, and you all are to an extent. You're my bonsai network, because I feel like from my point of view, it's very, very satisfying, very uplifting, and cathartic, where I get to become part of your bonsai journey and part of your bonsai world, and that means a lot. And I take that honour very seriously, and I'm as honest as the day's long, and I will tell you anything that I possibly can to help your journey. There's no secrets. There's nothing, and I try and make it that it's very approachable and enjoyable. And from the feedback from you all, thank you very much. It's like I said, seeing the comments come through that are so positive in this world, it's great. So I do love you. I love you all. I love subscribers too. Thank you very much for getting on board. It's only something new which has sort of happened this year with the podcast to help with keeping it rolling, and it's fantastic. So thank you very much. Hope you enjoy your holidays. Hope your trees are kicking along. Hope you're resetting your plans as well. Coming into 2024, it's a few hours away from when this podcast comes out. I hope that you continue that goal setting with your trees and look at, taking some photos, and we can have the same conversation in 12 months' time where you can look at them, review them and go, now it's 2 years down the track from where I was. It's amazing because, if you think about that 1 to 2, 1 becomes 2, becomes 4, becomes 8, becomes 16. It's not many years down the track that your trees are going to explode with growth. So having that, it might not feel like it always that's going to happen that way, but it does, and they fill out very nicely. So stick with the goal setting, and I will be back in 2024. So happy New Year. Thank you very much for everything. As always, stay in touch with your bonsai. Make sure you look after them, give them what they need. It can be difficult, but just enjoy the process, enjoy the ride, and as always, happy bonsai.